So it is the top of the hour. I promised we'd get started at noon, and get started at noon we shall. Happy Thanksgiving. I know we still have a week, but hopefully this time next week you guys are having fun, full bellies, enjoying football or, whatever you do on Thanksgiving. We're going to go ahead and get started, get right into it. I know Robin and Brandi have a lot to cover today, so I don't want to take up too much time with my rambling. But I do just want to send a reminder out that, these are your meetings. We do put these on in an effort to make sure our customers and clients are better, educated and know all of the ins and outs of the software they're paying for. So if you have a topic that you think would be a good SmartTalks topic, or you just want our opinion on something, whatever it is, feel free to reach out to us. You can get us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or you can reach out via email directly. We don't have the Yeti anymore. We did move on to this new CS3 Technology Cup that comes in the navy blue. We're going to be giving one out for free at the end of the presentation. Just make sure, you stick with us, and then all you have to do is show up. I'll pick a winner at random after the show, and then we'll get that in the mail. So last month's winner was Renee Price. She joined us from the Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency. Renee, if you're here, I hope you enjoy your cup, and hopefully somebody in this call will enjoy a new cup in the next few days. I did see a question coming through the Q&A asking if this was going to be just Scissortail or if Sage HRMS is going to be, part of the presentation as well. I did just want to say to the whole group that we do have Sage info in the presentation that Brandi and Robin are going to go through, as well as Scissortail. So Scissortail, Sage, whatever you have, we're going to have some tips for you guys as far as getting your year taken care of and closed out and ready for 2025. So moving on, Q&A. We've been doing these presentations in Teams for a few months now. We have the Q&A portion at the end of the show. We generally like to wait and answer all the questions at once. So if you put something up in the Q&A and you don't get an answer right away, don't fret, we'll get to it at the end. But I just want to give a quick reminder that you can access the Q&A through that ribbon at the top. Just click that Q&A button. You'll see the sidebar pull up, and then you can answer your questions there. So we will be monitoring, but we generally don't answer in real time, just something to keep in mind. The 18 pillars. So our CEO, Gary Crouch, is the author of the 18 service pillars, the basis of an exceptional organization. It's kind of the, 18 things that we try to do day in and day out that makes Service Central, the pillar of excellence that we strive for. So this month's pillar is focus on delivering value. This pillar emphasizes that every action taken for a client should be should provide a return on their investment. So every project we do, every support ticket we work through, it's all kind of in service of making sure our customers see a return on that investment. It kind of ensures that our efforts are aligned with client goals. It helps foster trust and long-term partnerships by consistently delivering meaningful results. So that's kind of what it's what we're all about, delivering meaningful results. And this pillar is definitely a big part of how we're able to do that. Acumatica features. So this month, we're going to be talking about transaction uploads. This does kind of go hand in hand with the Excel integration that we've talked about in the past, but simply update your data in Excel and upload it to Acumatica to create journal entries, sales orders, purchase orders, or price worksheets. The bulk upload capability allows you to handle large volumes of transactions at once. which makes it ideal for extensive data like long accounts payable allocations or general ledger entries. So if you're not using this feature, or if you're not certain how to access the bulk upload feature, every well, I don't want to say every screen, but any screen that you see this little upload button right here, that's in that red square, you'll have the capability to upload your data. So if you have questions about that, or you just kind of want someone to walk you through it the first time, feel free to reach out to your consultants or hit the support line, and we'll get somebody to help you out with that. When it comes to Scissortail, just a reminder, we do have our year-end class. So today we're going to be going through the year-end checklist, which is a really high-level view of closing out 2024 in Scissortail and Sage. And then on December 12th, we'll have our year-end payroll update, where we'll kind of take a much more in-depth look at all of the same things. So there's going to be a lot more information in that one. It's going to be a lot more in-depth. It's going to be more of a interactive, I would say, walkthrough of closing out the year. So if you get through the end of this one and you just kind of feel like, there's still more that you don't know, make sure you head over to our website under the events tab on the homepage, and you can register for that year-end payroll class. If you register before the 23rd, you'll get that early bird pricing, which would bring it down to $675 instead of the standard $750. So yeah, just head over to the website if that's something you're interested in. Make sure you get registered, get that early bird pricing before November 23rd. Signing up for our newsletter. So we have a lot of people that, ask questions about how they can get in on the newsletter, or just be better aware of what's going on with CS3 day to day, week to week. So we're going to walk through that process right here, starting on the homepage. You're just going to click the magic finger in the bottom right-hand corner, and that is going to take you to the Client Service Center. From there, you're looking for the Get Notified tile. It should be the very first one right across that top row. You're going to click that one, and it's going to take you to the subscribe form. Just fill it out, check the boxes on what you're interested in, hit submit, and that'll get you on our mailing list. We send a monthly newsletter out that kind of highlights upcoming SmartTalks topics, any new blog articles, video tutorials, tips that we've put out in the last month or so. We fill you guys in on our conference schedule, all kinds of stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, like I said, just head over to the homepage on the website, click into the Client Service Center, fill out the form. We'll get you guys on that mailing list. So I think I've taken up enough time here. I'm going to hand it over to Robin and Brandi, and they are going to run you guys through the year-end checklist. So I will see you guys on the back end for a few more announcements before we close out. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it over. So Brandi and Robin, the show's yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Derek. So I apologize. So we're rolling out the Power Presenter today from our team that support all the human capital management software.
You need to move on to the next slide.
That's what I thought seemed odd. I'm sorry. I was like, this doesn't seem right. Okay, sorry. Anyhow, we are getting close to the holidays. As you can see, my brain is already a little scrambled. So it can be the most wonderful time of the year, or it can be the most stressful time if you're in payroll. So our agenda today is to review the key items to do to prepare for year end, what all you need to update before year end, and the most important thing is balancing. We'll talk about W-2s and preparing for 2025. Brandi and I will switch back and forth talking about Sage HRMS and Scissortail HCM. So Sage 100 payroll clients, if you need help, send in a support request ticket to schedule a one-on-one session with Mike Talbot. And as always, any questions or issues can be emailed to support@cs3technology.com. Like Jim has always said in our year-end class, fasten your seatbelts, everybody. Here we go. So the number one thing to have a successful year-end is how the beginning of the year starts. So the number two thing, which is just as important, is having a year-end action plan that starts early. And by early, I mean now. So let's look at what your 2024 year-end action plan should look like. First of all, let's start with planning meetings. So we recommend that you get together all of the people that could be impacted by year end and have a meeting. For example, you'll want to include people like accounting for 1099 information and payroll, mailroom for postage and mailing W-2s, and those with taxable fringe benefits such as auto. You will want to let them know their deadline for submitting. Don't forget to schedule a party after year end is complete in your plan. You'll definitely need it. So dates, be sure to include all dates that impact your plan. Think about upcoming vacations, bank holidays, and deadlines for reporting. Also, when is the last payroll of 2024 and the first payroll of 2025? Next up are tasks. When it comes to tasks, be sure to list all the year-end tasks that need to be done. Don't forget ordering W-2 forms and other items that you may need. Responsibilities. So for all the tasks that need to be completed, to be sure to list who is responsible for completing them. And oh goodness, the worst one is disaster recovery. So this is the perfect time to ensure you have a disaster recovery plan in place. So make sure you get with IT and see what it entails, just in case you might have to restore. It's not a goal. We want to make sure it's taken care of. It's always a good time to double check that backups are working correctly. So let's talk about getting the W-2 forms and envelopes ordered. So for this year, there are no major changes to W-2 forms. So what this slide emphasizes is that all the delays in submitting or mailing W-2s are gone. You must be done and ready to send to the employees and file with the Social Security Administration on January 31st. In 2021, we saw some clarifications on dealing with return W-2s and 1095-Cs. This guidance says you should make a reasonable effort to deliver, but if you were unable to deliver, you should hold undeliverable W-2s for 4 years until the due date of the return for the employee. Paragraph 2 shows an example of the 2024 W-2 we would need to be held until April 15th of 2028. 1095 should be held for 3 years, and there's an example of it shown here as well. If the employee is active and can access their W-2 or 1095s electronically, there's no need to keep the undeliverable forms. If you were on the Sage HRMS system, here's where to go for forms information. So you'll go to sagechecks.com or call the phone number provided on the slide. The tax forms tab is at the bottom of this forms dropdown on sagechecks.com. All right, so let's look at some settings in HRMS. One particular item to remember is that most employees participate in the 401k plan. In order to report this deduction on the W-2s, we set the W-2 reporting on the employee tab of the deduction code. That is how we map it to the W-2 through Atrix. So be sure to check Roth and Catch-up as they will have a similar option. Again in Sage, here's an example of the W-2 reporting for employer-provided healthcare. Be sure this option is selected on both the employee and the employer if applicable. Remember, it is the total premiums, not just the employee portion. So keep in mind that you may have other codes that need to go in this box. We recommend that you be sure to check that you have the W-2 report box filled in when appropriate for anything that needs to go to the W-2. So now let's discuss reporting for pension plans. The W-2 has a checkbox for employees eligible for a pension plan. The setting for this is under Taxes, US FIT. Open it up and you will see the pension plan. If you have several employees with this code needing to be set, send in a support case. We have scripts to run in SQL to update this pension plan box. So Brandi, what do you have for us on ordering forms for Scissortail?
One second. I think I got it. Okay. I got control. I wanted to point out real quick on the bottom left, we have a logo for the product that we're talking about. So if you look up and you're not sure what we're talking about, bottom left, you'll either see Sage or Scissortail's logo. But here's the information for Nelco, the vendor we recommend ordering W-2s from, along with a recent screenshot where you can see the pricing and the hyperlinks that'll take you to compatible envelopes. And then Scissortail has a few things we want to configure, and especially your first year when you use Scissortail, these are really important. We have to set up to allow employees to consent to receive an electronic copy of their W-2. And this is where you can go to configure that. We have default wording in pulled from the, and you'll see that on the next screen, pulled from the Social Security Administration, but just want you to be able to look at that and turn it on if you want to allow employees to do that. Second, we might need to set up a delivery policy if it's our first year to print. There are also printing options for 1099s that have similar settings as well. Let's go on to the next page because this shows us where an employee can consent to receiving their electronic copy of their W-2. What that means is when we go to deliver the W-2, the one sent to the printer will skip anyone with electronic consent for the employee copy. But regardless of whether they decide to do electronic consent or not, the employees can still view their W-2s inside Scissortail. All the electronic consent means is we don't do a paper copy for them. So remember, oh, and also remember, if an employee terminates, they'll get a paper copy regardless of electronic consent. So even if they had electronic consent turned on, if they terminate, they get a paper copy. And you can see the path to get to the W-2s, electronic consent for this is for employees. And then there's all that long amount of wording from the IRS that we've put in as the default. And you can see where they put in electronic consent. Next, you'll want to confirm that you have your earnings and deductions set up to print in the proper boxes of the W-2. You can customize the view and add on the W-2 box type, just like you see in the screenshot. And keep in mind, there's an employee side and an employer side. So just be sure to double check both of them and check earnings and deductions. So I think, yep, I thought I had an earnings screenshot, but I don't. But you can see you can add those fields on easily. Next, let's talk a little bit about HRMS updates. You probably already have a plan in place to get the updates. So I'm not going to go into any great detail here, but they come out approximately 2 weeks before the end of the quarter. And then usually in January sometime, there's a service release where they put out additional taxes that it's usually state limits and locals that were kind of late reporting. So be sure to always check the release notes to see the actual changes. And then if you look at the screen points, the HRMS updates have two parts. The first one's a programming changes, and the second one is the actual tax update. So when you install, be sure and double check your program version after, and this shows you the path to get there, to go to help, about, and you see your version. And then after that, we're going to go on to the next page, and we'll go in to see if the tax update was installed. You go to the calculate payroll screen. This will show you that latest tax update date. Be sure if you have multiple EINs that you check each individual one's calculate payroll. Okay, that's it for this. I think you got the easy one with updates, Robin. You ready?
I guess here we go. All right. So, yep, this is definitely an easy process here. That is because updates in Scissortail are automatically installed for you since Scissortail is part of a SaaS environment. They should be installed around December 29th this year, and any hot fixes that are released during monthly updates. So when updates happen, you will get an announcement of any changes like the one on the right side of this slide. So easy peasy. Okay. So next up, let's discuss balancing and year end. So this is such an important step regardless of the system you are on. So double checking that your taxable wages are correct is a key factor to having correct tax filings. So we recommend that you hand calculate the taxable wages. So as we move through the next slides, we will talk about reports to use and balance to. You might have some crystal reports that you are comfortable balancing to as well. We will also discuss comparing 941s, W-2s, and state reporting in Matrix. So regardless of which system you use, one of the most important things we can do is to hand calculate taxable wages. This allows us to make sure we have the code set up correctly and no accidental employee issues like marking someone exempt when they should be non-exempt. So I have a couple examples of how to calculate on the screen. So now we move into reporting. So let's talk about the HRMS reports first, and then Brandi will cover Scissortail. So we'd like to use the earnings and hours to calculate our hand-calculated taxable wages. The name is deceiving because it has deductions and taxes also, but there's a key reason I like this one for balancing. So balancing takes two reports if you don't use earnings and hours. You will need to use the payroll register and the transaction report to make sure you have everything. So that is because the payroll register excludes any adjustments made in transaction history. Tax calculation analysis shows us a summary at the end of all the taxes and tax wages to compare to our hand calculated taxable wages. To find the transaction history report, you'll go to Reports, Payroll, Employee Reports, and then to Transaction History. For W-2s and Matrix, remember it always leaves the state abbreviation blank. So this is in Sage HRMS, so be sure to put in your state there. So Brandi, what do you have going on in Scissortail?
Well, Scissortail has a lot of built-in protections to help keep you from making mistakes and me from making mistakes on taxable wages and on your setup. But we still recommend you check it, the report anytime, especially after you add a new earning code or a deduction code. That's the awesome time to just balance and make sure. Also, if you're a non-tax service client, so if we don't do your taxes for you, we recommend you calculate the taxable wages at least quarterly, if not more often. This is a process that the CS3 tax team runs each week to make for all of the tax service clients. We use the export that's shown over on the left, and it exports to Excel, and that's kind of the inset toward the bottom of the screen. It allows us to add some columns in Excel and do some formulas and hand calculate taxable wages by person, which makes it really easy to find if anybody's out, because then I can compare my hand calculation to what the actual taxable wages were and find any issues. And you can run this export for any date range you want. So you can do for quarter or for year. We usually balance quarter for the tax service clients. We balance quarter and year, like I said, each week. It's part of our just standard process that we do. From this screen, you can see there's a lot of different boxes on the W-2 that you can add, sort, filter, and review. And there's also, it's circled on the left-hand side, preview options to look at the W-2s. This is where you could download a copy of the W-2s to your machine. And remember, everybody will have electronic access to W-2s, even if they didn't choose electronic consent. So I think that's it for me, Robin. I think you're back up next.
Ready? Okay, so what are the items we need to set up, review, and test? So we need to set up any new benefits, deductions, earnings, etc. So we will need to review by processing an open payroll. So make sure your benefits come into payroll and the correct amounts. Lastly, do a test payroll. Make sure earnings and new deductions get taxes correctly. You can test with putting in a fake time and test it out, and then delete the payroll and time and back it out after you test. The legislative changes are the updated rates for the Social Security limit for 20 and 25 with the key data. So you can see here that the wage base increases to 168,600 for 2025, and or from it to 176,100. Goodness, these holidays are coming up on me. So you can also see the maximum tax, Social Security tax that employees and employers will pay each for 2025.
Yeah, we have a typo on that one. It should be.
Yep.
The top number should be 176. I'll go ahead and update that.
Awesome. I appreciate that. To verify the Social Security limit in HRMS, you'll go to the tax screen above and double check the annual maximum earning box. That's a lot of words to say at once. So you need to make sure you update it to the correct limit for 2025. Okay, now let's talk about state unemployment rates, also called SUTA rates. I'm using Arkansas SUTA as an example. So if the rate increased or decreased, you would see it in this screen. You would put in the employer percentage as well. So you may have to go back and forth with rates to get your reports and payrolls correct, since you can't set an effective date for SUTA rates in HRMS. This screen displays the updated 401k limits for 2025 with 2024 numbers to compare. So you'll notice the Secure Act 2.0 items on the list as well. The 401k deduction annual maximum limit can be seen on the earning deduction code screen in HRMS. Remember, this will only be used for new employees. We will look at how to update existing employees next. So if you use common deduction limits, you may not need to update on the next screen, but these are handy to allow you to use a limit across multiple deduction codes. So both the 401k and catch-up plans have common deduction limits in place. This is where you can update the annual maximum for 401k on an employee. It is as simple as the screenshot shows. Be sure to update all the deduction codes like catch-up and Roth if applicable to your company. So Brandi, what do you have for updating Scissortail rates?
Well, you'll want to, we're going to start off with unemployment first. And you'll want to add any new unemployment rates to Scissortail HCM as soon as you get them. A super nice thing, and you can see that there on the screen, is you can date when the change is effective. So you can put these in the minute you get them. You don't have to hold them. If CS3 manages your tax filings, go ahead and send a copy of your new rate letter to the support at cs3tech.com to open a ticket, and we'll update your rates for you. If you want to send, we want you to send this for more than just your convenience. It also helps us make sure we get it updated everywhere and make sure everything looks good and we get your forms correct. And for those of you that don't take advantage of the CS3 filings, you can still use this super cool feature inside HRM or inside of Scissortail and add the future date. So no matter what, you don't have to update the taxable wage limits like you have to. You don't have to in HRMS either. You don't have to update those. Those are system maintained. And then reminder, if CS3 manages your taxes, be sure and send your rate notices up to a support ticket. And then this is an easy one. Those 401k things, all those mass updates and setting all the limits and all that, you don't have to do that in Scissortail. It manages all of those things related to 401k limits, compensation limits, all that are managed. See, those are kind of like grayed boxes up there, the compensation limit. You'll also notice there's an auto increase the plan limit for people over 50. So the system just maintains it for you, which is super awesome. All right, that's all of our payroll updates. Now we're going to go and talk about ACA, and we're going to talk about it for both HRMS and for Scissortail. And just like what we said when we started payroll updates, the first step is planning and knowing when everything is due. For several years, the ACA deadlines were extended, but right now the IRS seems to be holding the line and setting the deadlines and sticking to them. So the January 31st is the deadline for the form to employees. If you're filing paper, which there's such strict regulations on paper now that it's hard to be one of those people that does it, but if you are one, February 28th is your date. Most people are going to be the March 31st for electronic filing. So they haven't moved this one up like the W-2 filing, so that part's nice. But in the same manner as before, you'll want to have an action plan around ACA reporting. A few things you'll want to review in your process is how benefits are set up, and once again, this is regardless of the system, how the employees are set up, audit the employees, and run reports to review that everything looks good. Let's start off by reviewing the benefits set up inside Scissortail. Here are a few things in note you'll want to do inside. Look at your effective from and to dates. Those are required for ACA reporting. You can't leave the to date blank. Also, look at the coverage provided through end of term month. Usually you want to check this box if they get coverage all the way through the month. It makes the ACA forms go much easier if that's what happens during their final month of employment. Inside the medical benefit settings, this section shows you or tells the system how to treat the benefits with regard to ACA. Basically, you're answering, is it minimum essential coverage plan? Does it provide minimum value coverage? And is it a conditional offer? And if you're not sure what conditional offer is, you're probably safe to answer no. To review the employee's ACA setup, you'll want to make sure all qualified employees have the current benefit profile assigned. I found the best and fastest way to check this is to go to the Team tab, Benefits, ACA, Employee ACA Actions. And you'll want to add a column for current benefit profile in order to review the employees at a glance. So you can see I've got a few people missing that profile on my little screenshot. But just like all the Scissortail screens, this report can be exported to review in Excel, PDF, or whatever is easier to work with. And you can save it for next year so that you don't have to do this update each year. So save your work as you go. Another part of the employee ACA setup to look at is the employee's ACA timeline. It's an at-a-glance picture of what the employee's ACA report's going to look like. Everything in green is calculated by the system. The items in black, like the one in red, or circled in red, the PT, were manually updated. The highlighted text in the inset that are highlighted green, I don't know who did that. That's a complaint because I talk about text being green and then highlighting green. Oh my goodness. The highlighted fields in the inset show you extra lines that help you know when an employee is approaching full-time or if there's a possible downgrade. And the timeline allows you to begin auditing your reports early in the season. So you don't have to wait till January to start looking at this. You can look at it each month as you go. And if we do your ACA for you, that's one of the things we do is we check the ACA reports each month just to see if there's any issues. Finally, let's look at some sample reports that'll help in your audit. As you can see in the black menu on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a long list of reports to review in Scissortail for ACA. The report shown is the employee ACA report, and like all screens in Scissortail, it's customizable. And you can look at your ACA forms early in the year. You don't have to wait till the end of the year for them. Okay, I'm going to switch to Sage HRMS now. So let's talk about some do's and don'ts of processing ACA forms in HRMS. And you may hear me talk about MWA, which stands for My Workforce Analyzer. It's the product that's used for ACA processing in HRMS. You always want to avoid making any edits in Atrix if you can. Now, there are always times when you need to make edits in Atrix, but try your best to make the edits in HRMS. That way, if you have to regenerate the forms, you don't lose all the hard work you did in Atrix. Be sure to use the waived dates on employee benefits inside of HRMS. And be sure to put end dates on all coverage as needed. Some items of note on the MWA setup screens. Be sure to select all the plans that you need. And keep in mind that bottom section is only needed if you utilize the analysis section. So you can skip over it unless you're doing analysis. The regulatory period, where the yellow arrow is only needed for utilizing the analysis. So once again, you can skip over it if you're doing forms. But the required variable hour employees, the green arrow, are all employees who do not get regular benefits. They fall into this group. Anyone listed as full-time on the employee service hours screen will get a form. But if they're not listed as full-time, they will not get a form. So if you have people that are part-time with benefits, you have to mark them full-time in MWA to get a form for them. So just keep that in mind. We do recommend, with HRMS especially, to keep a spreadsheet of employees who change from part-time to full-time and full-time to part-time to best audit the forms. If we're talking Scissortail, I would say audit that right after, the month right after those changes happen, so that you're done with those already. And then once you've audited these for HRMS, you should be ready to process. So basically, all you have left to do is to register for the year-end class. Awesome, fun stuff. Okay, and Derek, I think we're done. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't. It doesn't look like the audience does either. From the Q&A section, we'll give people a couple of minutes here to, gather their thoughts and okay. And share questions if they have any. While that's going on, I do want to let you guys know the December Smart Talks topic is going to be kind of similar, just accounting year-end checklist and processes. This one is going to lean more toward, kind of the Acumatica users, but there is a lot of just general accounting information in here that could be really powerful whenever it comes to closing out your year. So if you handle anything on that end, or anybody in your organization who does and you think they could benefit, we'll have invites for December Smart Talks going out relatively soon. We are wrapped up on the conferences for the year. We've got Michael entombed in his sarcophagus beneath the office until early March, I think, is when he's going to be back out on the conference circuit. So you won't be able to see us anywhere for the rest of the year, but we do still have one more Smart Talks. And also just a reminder, our offices will be closed next Thursday and Friday in celebration of Thanksgiving. So hopefully you guys are also off work and will be enjoying time with your family. So yeah. If you're not a Serve Access Plan member, you can contact Ira. His information is right there at the bottom of the screen. Just a reminder, the recording for this will go up for Serve Access Plans probably sometime next week. And then we'll make sure to send you guys the slides as well. Ira will get that over to everybody. So yeah, I'm going to draw the name for the cup here after the presentation. We still don't have any questions here, so I'm going to just kind of assume everybody absorbed everything that Robin and Brandi had to say. But if anything comes back or anything comes up between now and the end of the year, feel free to send us an email. Open a support ticket, do whatever you can to reach us, and we'll get somebody out or we'll get somebody on it to help you out. So yeah, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and close out the presentation. Thank you all again for joining us, and we will see you guys in December.